was underway. Stamps his authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to round number 7 of your Almost Pro Championship season. It's here, it's the halfway mark, and we will be racing around the Netherlands here tonight. My name is Joseph Black, and alongside me will be Kyle SW. For this session, we'll be having our, as always, our short qualifying, and then we'll be heading into the race session. But a few of the drivers have been complaining about this circuit early on, I believe.
Yes, quite a few. Owen Valdero especially. I think I saw... Yeah, as a surprise. I think I saw Luca Serafini, Ollie Matthews in there as well, but that definitely was a revolt led by by Owen Valdero. But they're all here for the challenge. I know Owen Valdero was practicing quite a lot last night, and he was putting the effort in to get faster. So hopefully he will prove himself wrong and actually come out for a decent podium or something along those lines. But but on the OBS update, I quite like it. It reminds me more of like a proper DJ setup. It's that's a personal preference, I guess. And lastly, before I hand back to you, I will just apologise to anyone who's listening. If you do hear some background noise, it is extremely windy where I now live. I do live by the coast, and it's an old Victorian house where I am. So there's a few rattles, as I'm sure you can expect, but hopefully it won't ruin anything actually. Hopefully my microphone is good enough to not pick it up.
Yes, hopefully so. Anyway, trackside is what we're going to be able to bring you now.
Welcome along, everyone. If you are joining us on the APC YouTube channel, we are only a minute late, so I'm sure you will forgive us, but we are ready to go here in Zandvoort. And the first person to set a lap, actually, no, we've already started that, haven't we? So the person I'm actually on board with about to set a lap is Owen Valdero, but we have already got Dan Riley, Connor Stewart-Woodard, Ollie Matthews, Alexandra Vickel, and the new driver, which very poor of me. I should have had his name ready to go, so this is not the smoothest thing in the world. The new driver, who is Aaron Petho, who is replacing Harrison Robinson, who decided last week out to leave the league without any kind of warning. So purple sector 1 for Owen Valdero at the moment. We'll see how that progresses, but the first times will be coming in very shortly, and I believe it's going to be Dan Riley, if I'm not mistaken, is about to cross the line to set a time of a 1:09.392, followed by that'll be Alexandra Vickel, who is a 1:11.3, so 2 seconds off at the moment, but it will be Ollie Matthews to cross the line next then.
Yeah, Ollie Matthews will be the next one across the line. He'll put himself up in second place. We've not kept up with much of this action so far, as I'm desperately trying to remove everything from certain things. Anyway, Owen Valdero up to the line, and he will be taking it to the flag with a 1:09.793, which puts himself up in second place. Up to the line for the Williams, that will be 6th place, so that's not going to be the lap time they will be hoping for. They're going to be going once again. Brian Moore also just heading through the second sector as Luca Serafini quickest of all.
Fantastic from Lucas Serafini, and so as we've seen in the last few races, he really shows a lot of promise. He usually starts very well. We think, oh, he might be on for pole, and all of a sudden, in comes Chenkovan, and as always, 1:08.8 for Andrea Chenkovan, and that is just over a temp to Lucas Serafini. So actually, not bad for Luca. He'll be quite pleased with that, I'm sure. As not everyone, apologies, we are on board with Brian Moore, who will come along to set his lap soon. Maybe get a slipstream from the Aston Martin in front of Ollie Matthews. So Ollie Matthews thought better of that and has flown away. If it was Owen Valdero, he may well have helped out, but not on this occasion. Connor Stewart-Woodard in there, 1:10.3. So not bad showing as he goes into the wall. And so Brian Moore loses the back end coming round the long bank in there and almost completely totals the car. How he didn't lose his wheel, I have no idea. But he has completely lost his front wing, and that has completely ruined his qualifying session. Got no idea how he's done that. That was absolutely unbelievable. I'm not sure if you were here to catch that one, Joseph, but that was a wild crash.
Certainly were and certainly was, but well, he up to the line 4th place. But yeah, Brian Moore, very lucky indeed there not to be out of this session, and well, we will see what he can do, whether he can make up for that mistake later on in the session, whether he can make the most of the fact that he was not out, or whether indeed it is just going to be one of those things. We'll see. With 12 minutes left in the session, that'll be the first runs over with, and the second run's ready to get underway. And Bert Welly, of course, will be on his in lap. Ollie Matthews is going to be on his push lap, and he's improved by 0.4 of a second. Up to the line then will come the Aston Martin, going to hope to improve on his teammate. He needs 0.4 of a second to do so, and he's going to get 3.73 of a second. Not quite close enough to his teammate, just in that 7th place. And, well, that won't be exactly what he would have wanted. Lucas Erasini and, well, Andrew Chenkovan on the front row right now, and I believe that is going to be one of the Williams coming out of the pit lane once again. In fact, there's only one Williams in the race, so yes, it is indeed.
Still waiting on Regan. I think I saw in the chat earlier he mentioned that I saw something about Regan. Let's have a quick little peek there and see if he did jump in the chat. He didn't, but Owen Baldera did say join during quali. So yeah, we are missing Regan Harding, and we are missing Matthew Gatches. This is the second week in a row Matthew Gatches actually hasn't turned up, so no idea what's going on with Matthew. I hope we do see him back in the league very soon, because he's not quit as far as I'm aware, but we've been surprised by people disappearing in the past. But yeah, as you say, Regan hopefully will join during quali, another one who is expected to be here. But currently it is Paul Grung who is on a lap, ready to set a time. And Brian Moore has come out of the pit lane again. He's to get his second lap in early to make up for that mistake. And hopefully he won't make that mistake again. I'm not sure quite how that happened. I wish I had his stream up, because it was very odd. Now, I've crashed in that corner before. I've put the battery on too early, quite a loose rear end, and the back end stepped out, but it went the other way. His car seemed to fly to the left for some reason. No idea how he done that, but yeah, I'm sure he will tell us all about it when he jumps in for an interview after the race, as he so often does. But just waiting to see what he can set now. He's on the lap, and it's just Paul Garung who we're waiting for, who's about to hit the final banking now, and he will hope that he doesn't do what we're now going to coin a Brian Moore.
No, he's going to hope not to, and around the final corner he will come, and in fact it's going to be another lap. He's going to go once again, is Paul Garung, because he was not happy with the pace of it, so he backed out and will be going once again. Brian Moore has just started on his lap, and Lucas Erasini off of the circuit. I think he might have just been moving out of the way of the Aston Martin, but either way he has dropped down and is going to be moving out of the way, hoping to go once again. There's Brian Moore then, and he at the moment has a 49.4 in the first two sectors. The final sector will beckon, and he will come to the line and hope to improve on the lap time that he has already, which of course is not a lap time, the only one to not have one so far. Around the final corner he will come, and up to the line. This time he's kept it nice and clean, and this time he's going to get a 1:11.450, so a lap time on the board, and he's going to jump two drivers, and up to the front row goes the Williams. A very, very, very good lap indeed, and so that will throw himself up to the front row, will Aaron Petho, and that is exactly what he wants to see. Bert Welly, though, not so much as allegedly contact with Paul Garung.
How did he do that? I was not on board, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure how he's managed to do contact or get contact on his outlap. So very odd. Yeah, unfortunately, we wouldn't have even had that on the replay camera. Something we'll have to ask him about later on. But yeah, that's an odd one. We don't get many grid penalties in APC or league racing in general, to be honest. So bit of an odd one. Brian Moore then 1:11.450. Be quite happy with that. It's very much on pace with Alexandru and his teammate. Well, actually, no, his teammate's a second ahead. Bill Connor's got some pace this week. We're looking forward to seeing what he can do. But he'd be happy with that, because he would have probably gone quite tentative on that lap. He would have wanted to not repeat the same mistakes. So no doubt he would have been going to be easier. But that is an improvement then from Andrea Chenkovan. I don't know. I need to get posted and put that on my screen. Andrea Chenkovan, who has been a 1:08.629, which actually is exactly 2 tenths ahead of Aaron Petho on his debut, and he'd be very happy with that, as Owen Baldero invalidates on that lap. So this will not be an improvement for him, and he will peel into the pit lane at the end of the lap, as he has done. This is Dan Riley, who has really struggled over the last few races. Not quite sure what's happened to Dan Riley's pace. He was obviously a contender for the top 3 for the last couple of seasons, but this season it's just disappeared. The pace has gone, so we're hoping to rectify that. And currently in P4, only 4 tenths away from 3rd position. I feel like this could be the race where he finally starts to bring it back.
Certainly could be. He'll be hoping it is, and it's a good start for himself in this session. Indeed, of course, is on an in-lap at the moment, but the pace at the moment has him on the second row of the grid into fourth place with a 109.392. He's going to go again, in fact, Dan Riley, so we're going to get the opportunity to watch with the Briton as he goes on to another lap of qualifying right here. Whether it's going to be an actual push lap or whether it's just going to be practice, we're going to have to remain to wait and see. But for himself, it's been a pretty decent start, all things considered, to this session. And, well, if we compare that alongside the standings that we have, then we'll be able to see just how much he has struggled this season. It has been a little bit more than we would have been expecting, really. At the moment, he finds himself all the way down in 12th place, just 14 points on the board. Andrea Chenkovan leading the way with 147, so gets 10 times Dan Riley's points at the very top of the field. Second place, Ollie Matthews. Third, Owen Boldero, 13 points off the back of Matthews. Lucas Ericini in fourth place, and Burt Welly is going to be in P5. He's jumped Alexis Mason, as has Ethan Shackleton. Matthew Gatch's half of Alexis Mason's points tally in 8th, and Harrison Robinson in 9th with 20. Leandro Ratto rounding out the top 10. Regan Harding in 11th, Dan Riley in 12th, Connor Stewart Woodard and Brian Moore both dropping down positions, and then Aria Stone, Alexander Vickel and Paul Garung to round out the points positions. I'm expecting Paul Garung to jump up a little bit further tonight. And then in the constructors, it'll be Ferrari, of course, at the top with 219. Aston Martin in second with 160. Of course, we'll be hoping to catch. And they certainly do have the pace to really, really put up a challenge. Third place will be Burt Welly and Lucas Ericini representing Racing Bulls, as that is an outfit that's come together relatively recently. And they've come together with some style. Williams in fourth place with Harrison Robinson and Regan Harding. McLaren, of course, no drivers in fifth. Then Haas, Kick Sauber and Mercedes to round out the order. But that Mercedes team, considering their last place, they have talent to be far higher than that.
Before we go on to Mercedes, we completely missed that Ollie Matthews crashed out in his qualifying. I think he was on an outlap. I'm not actually 100% sure. We weren't on board on either the main camera or the replay camera, unfortunately. But something happened, and I saw the track map briefly and saw him crashed out in the first sector. I think it was the first bank in to the left. So something's happened on that lap, and hopefully he'll tell us more about it. Might even provide us with some sort of replay as his teammate then, Boldero, goes off the track. So we've seen some good not domination, that's probably the wrong word, but some really good driving from the Aston Martins recently. Unfortunately, though, they're not doing the same thing this time out. But yeah, not sure what's going on there. The Mercs, as you say, great talent. I know that Paul Garung, I wasn't here last week, unfortunately, but I did watch it back. And Paul Garung, did. So watch it back. I watched it live. Paul Garung did struggle. I think he spun probably a count of about 5 times. I probably should have put a lap spin counter on the broadcast. But so they've got some great talent. Just neither of them have shown it very much. Of course, Paul Garung's not been here. He blamed it on rust last time out. He's missed quite a few races. He's not actually raced at all this season, having rejoined last race. So he'll be hoping to get better. Not get better, that's not the right word, but get his pace back. And get some good points for Mercedes. I'm looking forward to seeing, though, the battle for the lower down positions in the Teams Championship, because they are close. I can't remember off my head, but I think it's 1 point, wasn't it? It's like 1 point and then 2 teams on the same point. It's going to be a fierce battle right to the end of the season as we actually are slowly approaching the halfway point.
Yeah, approaching the halfway point of the season. After this race, it will be at the halfway point of the campaign, and then we will see where everybody stacks up after half the races. Of course, then we're going to have a break week next week, so no APC action on your screens, and then we'll be back the week after, ready and raring to go for the 8th round of this season. Then we're going to go for the run all the way to the end of the campaign. Of course, Italy, our next race. Monza will be where we make our return on the 7th of April. Then Azerbaijan. Then our second and last sprint race of the year at Texas. Brazil, Las Vegas, at Qatar and Abu Dhabi will round out our season. And it's going to be a very, very good season indeed, you would think. But a very, very, very good first half of the season that's really seen the Ferraris extend their advantage at the very top of the field, demonstrate the pace that we were expecting them to, and even when they had some coming in as reserves halfway through the season, they still held up to standard, and hopefully we'll be seeing more challenges for them in the second half of the campaign.
Yeah, for sure. We do actually have a couple of drivers. So obviously, we have a new driver this week and a couple of drivers actually who are planned to do a trial race and potentially join during the off season. So not the off seasons, apologies. The week breaks. Hopefully, coming back at the race number 8. We may well see a couple more drivers. It gives us a lot more time to find some more, of course, get some more advertising out there. And obviously, if you're watching and you want to get involved, plenty of time to do so. We've still got 7 races left this season, so do apply on our Discord channel, and we will hopefully get you in as we I don't know. Upon words just suddenly disappeared as we come off the mid-season break. But yeah, it's looking really good. Obviously, McLaren currently don't have any drivers, having had 2 drivers early on, but that all comes down to Paul moving and Ollie moving to join Owen Boldero. So plenty of spots. Get involved, and hopefully we can fill it up before we get to the end of the season. But for now, the focus is on Andrea Chenkovan, as he'll be looking to improve his pole position time, his provisional pole position time, and it's going to be currently a 1:08.629. No, he's not gone any faster. I just realised that is 10 seconds slower. So either that was a warm-up lap or a bad lap from him. But Aaron Petho is also on a lap. He's also backed out, so he's also on a warm-up lap. So there's clearly a bit of a strategy play going on from the top 2 here.
Yeah, go out early, get yourself prepared, and then just go for your final lap. That's what they'll be hoping to do. And with 1 minute 25 in the session, you can understand that they don't want to face all of the traffic that they could potentially be facing if they went out just that little bit too early and went for that lap just a little bit too early. So they're just going to have another warm-up lap to chill and to wait and to be all right before they get to the race session itself, which will be happening very, very shortly. And then we'll see what will happen. Of course, they've got to get themselves prepared for the final runs as well, which are about to get underway. I believe Andrea Chenkovan will still he's in the final sector, so I think that's Connor Stewart-Woodard starting on his lap. His best one so far is a 1:10.3, so it's going to be 6/10 off the back of Owen Boldero ahead, and it's going to be an entire second ahead of Alexander De Vickel behind. So a decent lap time. That is still room to work, though, and he'll be trying to exercise that room to work, as Andrea Chenkovan is going to go the fastest of all, a 1:08.482. Not sure why we didn't switch to the onboard when I tried to switch to the onboard, but either way, he is going to be right at the very top of the field. Connor Stewart-Woodard then has improved after the first sector and is going to try and push on to the lap. Just having a look to see if anybody else is on their push lap, since clearly I got caught out right there. Is Dan Riley? No, he's not. Well, he is, but he's not in the final corner just yet. Who's going to be the V-carb coming around the final few? It's going to be Luca Seracini, who is improving. He'll be the next one up to the line. He's going to be getting a lap time that looks like it's an improvement, 0.2 of a second up to second place. The front row of the field beckons as the checkered flag waves. Connor Stewart-Woodard around the final corner then. He's got an improvement by 1.5, and he will try to find even more time. He needs 0.6 of a second to even improve his position ahead of a disappointing Owen Boldero so far in this qualifying session. He finds a 1/4 of a second. It's not going to be enough to improve. Brian Moore has found a 1/4 of a second in the first couple of sectors as well, and he's going to come to the line. 0.5 is what he's eked out in the final lap and the final sector, as Dan Riley goes up to fifth even, as this will be Aaron Petho. He will be up to the front row of the field. An impressive debut qualifying performance. Bert Welly to the line, up to 5th, just ahead of Dan Riley. Owen Boldero will come to the line now. He needs 0.2 to catch up to Ethan Shackleton. He finds those 0.2, but nothing more. Then we have the last few drivers to make it to the line. Vickel won't be improving. Paul Garung will be, and I think he will be the last one with a lap time, because Chenkovan and Seracini have both backed out of their lap times. He is in 4th place at the moment. He has the potential to get onto the front row of the grid, and he was improving. Is this going to be enough? No. 4th place for Paul Garung, which sees him into 4th, sees him not improve. Andrea Chenkovan, pole, but a new contender takes P2.
Oh, we are on for a fantastic race here at APC this week. I'm very much looking forward to that. There was an improvement from Alexander Vickel. He did it quite early on, so it wasn't picked up at the time. But yeah, a slight improvement. He'd be quite happy with that, I think, although he was quite close to Brian Moore ahead. Connor Stewart-Woodard, I mean, he would have wanted to try and get ahead of Ollie Matthews after that crash, but wasn't able to pull it out. Owen Boldero, as you say, disappointing from Owen Boldero standards, but just ahead of Ethan Shackleton. A crash from Ollie Matthews. No idea what happened there. I'm sure we'll find out. Great showing from Dan Riley. Quite high up. He's only a tenth behind Bert Welly. Bert would be quite happy. Paul Garong would be quite happy to have not spun in that one. And as you say, a brand new contender is up there with Andrew Chenkovan and Luca Seracini. And this is going to be a very spicy one indeed.
Yeah, going to be a very, very spicy race indeed, as, we are going to be getting to the end of the qualifying session, so we may as well just throw it straight back to our title card. And then we'll get the chance to just have a conversation about the qualifying session that's just happened. And of course, Andrei Chenkovan right at the very top of the field, as we would expect him to be. And I'll actually throw it back in a second just so we can get the race results, or the qualifying results at the very least. There we go. There we are. 2 5-place grid penalties for Paul Grung and Bert Welly for contact with each other, but it's Andrei Chenkovan in that first place. He's joined alongside, as I say, our new contender, and that will be Aaron Petto in P2. Lucas Aracini in third, and Paul Garang in fourth. Bert Welly in fifth. Dan Riley in sixth. Ollie Matthews, Owen Boldero, Ethan Shackleton, Connor Stewart-Woodard, Brian Moore and Alexander Vickel to round out the field. Owen Boldero, as we say, disappointing, but I think he expected it, as when he spoke to us in the pre-race interview, that was mostly what he said. Although he said 2 podiums on the bounce is very, very good, and he's starting to get a bit of rhythm back. And, well, a new controller is in the hands, but he hates this track. He said it's going to be 36 laps of hell, and it's not going to be an easy 2-stop, but it's going to be a 2-stop for him. Top 5 is what he's hoping for, but he's not expecting anything, and we're going to have to wait and see what Boldero is going to be able to do. He was one driver who came into the interview box with us, if I can speak. The other one being Bert Welly. He said that he and his teammate got 4th and 6th last race. Nothing has changed since the last race. If it rains, it's good, since he won last time. Full wet all race, of course. If you remember back there, it was indeed. And then hopefully it rains and he can get good points. He's not looking forward to it if it's dry all race. So a universally unpopular choice, I think Zandvoort has been.
It would seem so, unfortunately. I mean, I think it's going to be one of the cases of, as you kind of get, in retail and things like that, where you only hear about it from the people who don't like it, not so much from the people who do like it. So I'm hoping that's the case, and some people are going to enjoy it. Aaron Petto, Andrea Chenkovan, not said anything. Andrea Chenkovan doesn't tend to really share his opinion on tracks, but yet he seems to be quite fast. Aaron Petto is extremely close. He's brand new. He only joined yesterday, so he didn't really have a chance to give an opinion, I guess. And Lucas Seracini also looking quite fast, and so I don't really know what he was going on about. I mean, I can understand Owen Boldero's concerns given how far back he is, but with those 5-place grid penalties, which again is very odd to see, that has of course switched up the order. That does mean that it's going to be Dan Riley in 4th, Ollie Matthews in 5th, Owen Boldero 6th, Ethan Shackleton in 7th, Paul Garung in 8th, Connor Stewart-Woodard in 9th. It's probably his best start of the season, I think. I don't say that too confidently. Bert Welly's going to be 10th, Brian Moore in 11th, and Alexander Vickel will still be the last runner. So, yeah, that's definitely switched up the order. But yeah, it seems to be one that they're not all enjoying, but I'm hoping it's going to be some good racing. No idea where Regan is. He clearly isn't a fan of it, as he hasn't even bothered to turn up. And the same with Matt Gatches. So, it could have been a 14-car grid. It's going to be a 12-car grid. But I'm looking forward to seeing this racing action tonight.
Yeah, 12 cars, not too bad, all things considered. And, well, we'll see what will happen. Of course, we'll be getting more drivers in the intermission period that we will have after this week. But, of course, we still have racing to go this week, so do not go away. Do not fear. We still have 36 laps of the sand dunes of Zandvoort to go. And, of course, Zandvoort meaning sand dune in Dutch, but we will be getting that racing underway very, very shortly. Just all the drivers making sure that they're all ready, and the fact that we were on the PSGL account might have scared a few of them into performing in that qualifying session, and might have had a few shying away from it, one of which being Owen Boldero. Of course, he'll be hoping to improve on that position. He will communicate with his teammates, and they will have a lot of communication to do throughout the course of this race. And, well, of course, they are locked together 5th and 6th. Because of the 5 seconds, or the 5-place grid penalties even, handed out to Paul Garung and to Bert Welly. Unfortunate for those two, but that's the way it crumbles at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're yet to see if there will be a steward's inquiry. I'm assuming they're not going to do it until after the race, if there is going to be one, as we get to see the Microsoft Edge browser. Is that Microsoft Edge? Do you use Edge?
Yeah, it takes less assets than Google Chrome. It takes less out of the PC.
There you go. Okay, well, I've learned something there, but no, fair enough. I've lost my train of thought now. But also, I can't remember what I was saying. Just the fact that you had Microsoft Edge on the screen just completely threw me off. I haven't seen that in ages, but. Yeah, look, there's going to be some great racing. There's a mix of tyre compounds on the cars. We have a medium for Andrea Chenkovan. We have hards from Aaron Petto down to Ethan Shackleton. We've then got mediums on Paul Garang, mediums on Connor Stewart-Woodard, mediums on Burt Welly, hards on Brian Moore's car, and then mediums on Alexander Vickles. So, as it is on your screen now. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Connor does like try something different, and I often try and talk him out of it because it doesn't usually work out for him. But like, if you can run with Paul, I'm sure he could end up getting a good result out of this one. I was engineering Connor and Brian last week, but as you pointed out in stream, as I let you know, Connor forgot to put his side pressures down after the qualifying session, so he was basically screwed from the outset, and we kind of gave up on him and we just focused on Brian. But unfortunately, Brian didn't really move up anyway. He did have a good battle with Dan Riley, but Dan Riley just had the pace on him. But yeah, we'll see which one of these strategies is going to be superior. I mean, being on the same strategy as Andrew Chenkovan can't be a bad thing, could it?
Well, we will find out indeed, as the drivers will roll up to the line and we'll get our racing going very, very shortly. It's going to be Andrea Chenkovan on pole position, of course, the old head of the league, alongside a new contender, as the 5 red lights are ready to come on in front of the drivers. The action is ready to get underway. And the drivers are going. It's a poor start from Aaron Petho on the inside line. Andrea Chenkovan gets a great one on the outside, and it'll be Lucas Erasini to challenge into turn 1. He gets turned into a little bit by Dan Riley, so both of their exits out of the first corner have been compromised. Looking further back, that will be a poor exit from Ollie Matthews that might cause contact further back, but no. Paul Garang just backs out of the move. Late lunge from Ethan Shackleton just onto the grass. Owen Boldero losing a couple of positions further up as well, as Aaron Petho has managed to recover from that poor start. He's going to try and fight for second place. Third place, though, is going to be challenged at the moment. And, Dan Riley almost already out of a second of the top 2.
Oh, what a fantastic start that was from Andrea Chenkovan. Probably one of his best starts of the season so far. Aaron Petho clearly has a lot of pace, but clearly needs to practice his starts a little bit more, it would seem. But this could just be a one-off. It could be something that he needs to work on. We will find out as the season progresses after the break. But yeah, as you say, he's recovered well. Dan Riley in a podium running position, he will be very pleased about that, because that is something we can't say about him very much recently. Connor Stewart-Woodard is going side by side with Ollie Matthews as well, so there is a lot of first, should we say, this race out. This is going to be a spice one, as we said. But yeah, he's obviously running quite well on those medium tyres. He's making them work, and he needs to make them work while they're fresh. But now he's got Paul Garang all over the back of him, who's also on the medium tyres, so they're on the same strategy. But yeah, there's a lot of different things happening here. You know, brand new contender in second place. Dan Riley back on podium running position. Connor Stewart-Woodard fighting the Aston Martins. And Burt Welly at the moment, and Ethan Shackleton currently down in 9th and 10th.
Yeah, at the moment down in 9th and 10th and fighting for it still. Burt Welly has the inside, has the position, nice and easily ahead of Ethan Shackleton for 9th and for 10th. Brian Moore just outside of the DRS behind. And there was a huge lunge on the last lap from Connor Stewart-Woodard. Wouldn't be surprised if he got a penalty warning for the lunge that he made on Ollie Matthews into the chicane. He's, I'd imagine, going to try and do it again, as Alexander Vickles has made his way through on Brian Moore, who is promptly disconnected from the session. Unfortunate there from Moore, and the 40-year-old man with kids is going to hope to get back into the session some point soon. Dan Riley is in that 3rd place at the moment, as he's been able to get closer to the man running in 2nd place at the moment. And Aaron Petho will be trying to hold on to the position as they head down the straight once again. Dan Riley's going to try and hold on to the position as well, as into the first corner he's challenged by Lucas Erasini, but he can't quite make the move stick just yet. He doesn't quite have the traction, and Burt Welly and Paul Garang side by side. This could be another position made up for Burt Welly. It indeed is. Paul Garang doesn't have much of a fight back, and so Burt up a position and has Connor Stewart-Woodard ready to fight right ahead. Lucas Erasini chasing on the back of Dan Riley, will want to make his way through soon. Dan has managed to make his way into the range of Aaron Petho, as I said last lap though, so the opportunity for that 2nd place, it's come back to them.
Oh, as that was Dan Riley who went wide there and went straight through the braking marker board. So not a great run for him there, and that has let Lucas Erasini get all over the back of him, and he is hassling the back of him. So Dan Riley may well be back up in podium contention. but he's struggling a little bit on those tyres, it would seem. And I was going to say that Lucas Serafini wants to get past him before they fall out of DRS range to Aaron Peffo, but it looks like that's already done. That mistake from Dan Riley has meant they are both almost 2 seconds off second position. But, you know, it's not out yet. There's so many more laps to go, and so much can happen. But yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. But Lucas Serafini will now come past him, as the other V-carb of Burt has also gone past Conor Stewart. In fact, I didn't see him go past Conor Stewart. Conor Stewart will go past in the first place. Maybe we missed that as we were watching that battle. But yeah, the V-carbs are fighting all over the place at the moment. They're fighting every single car. They want to get as many points as possible, as they are fighting for, I think, second place in the team championship. I mean, potentially they could get first, but given the dominance of Andrew Chenkovan at the moment, it's going to be very hard for them to do that. But yeah, they need all the points they can get, and that's Lucas Serafini setting a purple sector 1 on that lap, so he's doing all he can to make that happen, as actually he's now within DRS range of second position.
Yeah, within DRS range at the moment of Aaron Pecco, right ahead, and he's going to try and fight with him. He's not going to have the pressure from Dan Riley behind, who's now 1.5 off the back and has the two Aston Martins for company in behind. Of course, they've worked well together as teammates, have the two Aston Martins throughout the course of the season. They've gained positions probably where they didn't deserve it pace-wise because of the teammateship that they have at the moment, which is very, very good to see. Fastest lap of the race for Lucas Serafini, as there goes both of the Aston Martins, and Lucas Serafini now challenging Petto for that second place, and he's going to try and get through. Didn't quite have the exit, as there goes our first safety car out onto the circuit. For what? Who knows? But out it comes, and we'll be seeing all of the drivers, I'd imagine, thinking about their pit strategy just that little bit. As there we go. Nice little safety car stinger for you.
Yeah, if you wasn't sure, it is visualised on screen. You now know. I didn't see it, but it was Conor Stewart Woodard who had an issue on that lap, and now has his front wing entirely deleted. So I saw him drop back behind Ethan Shackleton, and I'm not quite sure exactly what happened, as he's just realised he can't turn the corner at full speed. He probably should have realised that earlier. But yeah, so something's happened there. So a fantastic start for him. So that's extremely, extremely disappointing. But having a safety car is probably the best thing that could have happened after whatever thing happened there. I don't think he was running next to anyone, so I think there may well have been a mistake on his own. Another mistake that we missed, I may well have picked up on the replay cameras. If I did, you're looking at it now. But Burt Welly had a mistake about a lap earlier than Connor's. And he went off the track and lost a lot of time. He fell back behind Conor Stewart Woodard, which a position he's still currently in. He didn't have any damage as far as I'm aware, but that would not have been an ideal thing for him when he was fighting his way up the order. Now, who are we going to see stop? I'm expecting to see a lot of the medium runners, all the medium runners stop. It's whether the hard runners think it's a good idea to do the same. It's going to be... have to wait and see. But yeah, it looks like we've got Andrew Chenkovan then in the pit lane. In fact, everyone in the pit lane apart from Lucas Serafini, Owen Boldero, Ollie Matthews, currently Brian Moore, but he's not quite reached the pit entry yet, so we'll see. So this is Lucas Serafini doing a different strategy again, which we see him try on a different lap, and Brian Moore has actually stayed out. So yeah, we've seen him try on a different race, and it didn't quite work out for him. So will it work out for him this time? But because the Mercedes of Dan Riley has gone hard. So where everybody on the medium tyres has stopped for hard, Dan Riley's the only car who... So he stopped from medium to hard. He's the only car who's gone from hard to hard. And then we've got the Williams of Aaron Petho, who's gone hard to medium. The same with Ethan Shackleton. So... it looks like, yeah, there's, again, a couple of different strategies that are playing out for all the different drivers. And I'm not sure, again, if this is a great thing for him or if this is a mistake. If he can keep the gap and then another safety car comes out, this could absolutely work out for him. But if the safety car doesn't come out, then, to be honest, actually, I don't know. Because Dan Riley has to stop again because he's done the same compound twice. And the chances of Aaron Petho and Ethan Shackleton taking the mediums to the end are probably quite slim. In fact, it's impossible. So there will be some more stops happening. So I don't know. This is going to be one of those strategy races. I'm looking forward to finding out who's actually pulled off the GOAT tier strategy this time.
Interestingly enough, we are not expecting another safety car this sort of level of league, you'd imagine so, but the cleanliness of the drivers that we have, we don't get safety cars particularly often, which is very good from the driver's perspective. Not so good from our perspective because we like the drama and we live for it, but that is the way that it goes sometimes. They're just too good, unfortunately. So it's a gamble to expect a safety car at this sort of level, and that comes from knowing the league and not knowing the league. So, for example, Aaron wouldn't know whether we're going to be having another safety car or not. So he isn't necessarily going to base his strategy on anything particularly because of the fact that he doesn't have that experience. If he was trying to gamble onto the safety car, and then, well, one, he'd be stuck up by the end of the race, but two, it just feels as though that's a big gamble to take for a league you don't know. That comes from experience of the league. That comes from what these drivers know, and a lot of these drivers know that there's not going to be another safety car, so their best opportunity to pit was then, and then they stay on that set of tyres for as long as they possibly can. A lot of them, though, expecting two-stop strategies. Owen Boldero spoke about it in his pre-race interview. So two-stop strategies very likely here today as a safety car ready to come in this lap.
Yeah, anyone who's new to APC, welcome firstly, but one thing that we very much focus on here is clean racing. We focus more on clean racing than we do on lap times. Your time trial time means nothing to us. It's whether you can actually race cleanly and respectful to other drivers. That's the big thing for APC. So yeah, that's why these drivers are so clean and why we had to go back to turning the safety car setting back onto standard, because we had it reduced on previous seasons and it didn't quite, nothing ever happened. But we are now ready then with Luca Seracini to lead the field away.
Yeah, Lucas Seracini is going to lead us away, and we're going to go back to green flag racing. Owen Boldero is going to try and challenge him into the first corner, and there's going to be a move further back. Aaron Putho going to have a look at Andrea Chenkovan. Now, this is the new challenger against our three-time champion. We'll see how they stack up side by side for the first time. The Williams will be in the inside line. The Ferrari will take the inside line for the next corner, and Chenkovan just tips a tyre onto the grass, which is going to lose him that position, and it's going to be the battle one. Is it the war one? Where we'll see as Ollie Matthews drops down the order. I think he's had a poor exit and has just decided to move out of the way of everybody apart from Dan Riley, who's going to be frustrated about that one and will be wanting to make his way through. Brian Moore loses a position to Paul Garung. That will be for 7th place. And Ethan Shackleton looking to come back through, but that's a perfect safety car restart from the top two. A perfect safety car restart as well for Aaron Petto in 3rd.
Oh, he'll be extremely happy about that. We have not seen a challenger for Andrea Chenkovan since Leandro Ratto in race 2. Is it race 2? It was race 2, where he decided to dramatically leave the league live in front of everybody. So that was a fun one. But yeah, so this is going to be great. So at the moment, they're obviously going to cycle through. They're going to cycle past Owen Boldero and Lucas Seracini. You'd expect it them to anyway, as they are on much older tyres, as actually he is now going to go past Owen Boldero. And he will try for Lucas Seracini very soon. And I'm expecting Andrea to follow them through. Now, this obviously isn't the end. This doesn't mean anything. There's obviously going to be other stops. There will have to be other stops, because those medium tyres will not go to the end. So, yeah, everybody on the field will need to stop again. I imagine Dan Riley will 100% have to stop, because he can't do hards. He has to put on a set of mediums. So, there's so much to play for here. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this battle is going to develop, as actually Owen Boldero is now in between the two. So if Aaron Peffer can make this next overtake count and can run away and drop Andrea out of the DRS window, then that could be a major undertaking for Andrea Chenkovan to try and come back at him.
Certainly could. That would be incredible for Andrea Chenkovan. He's able to make his way through as it's side by side between the two at the top now, and Petto is going to take the race lead. Lucas Seracini slots into 2nd place, and Andrea Chenkovan will take 3rd place off of Owen Boldero, who drops down to 4th. So that's the top 4 drivers swapping positions and changing up their spots as we're going to head on to lap number 10 with a new leader, and it'll be Petto leading the way, the Hungarian driver, leading his first lap in the Almost Pro Championship, and hopefully not the last. We did have a debutant last time, or potentially even the time before we raced around Zandvoort, although the less we talk about him the better, as it's alongside again for the 2 race leaders. Petto manages to sweep himself all the way around the outside and manages to hold on to the position. Dan Riley is going to drop down just very close between himself and Owen Boldero, and he might get a perfect exit, which allows him to pull alongside. And here we go. This could be the move of the day. Very well managed from the Mercedes. Moves back up to 5th.
Oh, a fantastic overtake there. Overtakes all round as Bertwelly is all over the back of Alexander Vickel. And Owen Boldero is going to go past Dan Riley there. So it's happening all over the place here. And I am very much here for it, as Andrea Chenkoven is also on the back of Lucas Saraceni. And he'll be hoping to dispatch of him very, very quickly. It's side by side between Alexander Vickel and Bertwelly through the entire third sector at that stage, as Dan Riley also goes past Owen Boldero. So there are overtakes happening all over the place, and I am here for it. Now, they may have all moaned about this track, but from us here in the comms box, this is a fantastic race.
Certainly is, so far at least. There's been so much good racing action going on, and we'll see what happens once again, as the race lead is being hotly contested at the moment. But again, it's Pedro who leads the way still, and will try to hold on to this position throughout the course of the rest of this race. Dan Riley looks like he's had a problem. He's dropping down positions, and he's going very slowly, is the Mercedes. So looks like a poor exit out of the first corner has cost him, and he's dropped down behind Connor Stewart-Woodard now into 9th place. So unfortunate for somebody who was looking pretty quick throughout the course of the weekend. His form is likely then to continue after all of the good work that he's done, but very unfortunate for himself right now. Andrea Chenkoven alongside Lucas Aracini, and will pull alongside the V-Carb and will pull ahead. But is he going to get ahead into the braking zone? The answer is yes, as he cuts across the position. He didn't quite cover it all off into the chicane, but in the end he did it just enough for Lucas Aracini to feel as though moving alongside would not have been worth it.
Oh, I didn't see exactly what cars were involved. I think it was Owen Boldero and Dan Riley's teammate Paul Garung. The three of them came together. 3 into 1 did not go in that corner. And Dan Riley, unfortunately, was the car on the inside, and the car that was pinched off track. And he went on the gravel and span. In fact, he did a great job to actually catch the spin and not do a full spin. And yeah, it was unfortunately the two teammates coming together, but it did look like it was a case of 3 cars all trying to get to one corner. As that Dan Riley again, it is Dan Riley again then, who unfortunately looks like he's dirty tyres has meant that he's now gone off track and he's struggling to recover. So the first mistake 100% was not his fault, and he will be extremely upset about that. I don't know what happened to the second time there. I'm not sure if that was his own mistake or not, but yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, when it looked promising, he is now going to start falling back down the order. Lucas Saraceni just dropped out of DRS of Andrea Chenkoven here. We did expect it to happen on his older tyres, and we did obviously expect Andrea Chenkoven to get faster than Aaron Pether at some point, being on the hard tyres, and Aaron's medium tyres were due to die off at some point. So what Aaron really needs now is just to stay with Andrea while his hard tyres do all the work, and stay with him until the next pit stop phase, and then he should be able to run longer, pit earlier, and hopefully do a mega undercut.
Yeah, mistakes breed mistakes for Dan Riley, unfortunately. But yeah, the undercut looking very interesting, as you say. Bertwelly looking very interested at the back of Connor Stewart-Wood. Did not go for the move, just stayed in behind and wanted to hold on to that 9th place for the time being, because he doesn't want to risk it too much. He's seen moves tried and failed around that corner, and he's going to try and make this move stick nice and sensibly in another corner where it might make a little bit more sense, but still following him behind, and will wait and wait and wait for his opportunity to be able to strike. The tyres then, having a look at those, lap 13 is what we're on, and we've got 7 laps for the top 2, 7 laps for Garung and for Shackleton, and 7 laps for Connor Stewart-Woodard, for Bertwelly, and for Alexander Vickel as well. Everybody else has done the whole race, apart from Dan Riley, who's into the box on a set of mediums. I don't know how many pit stops he fancies doing here, but it's going to be quite a few.
Yeah, it will be quite a few. It's actually, as we have our first pit or second pit, it's Lucas Saraceni, who will get off those hard tyres finally, and Owen Boldero will also get off those hard tyres that he's been running on. So I think, if I remember correctly, it's Ollie Matthews and Brian Moore who are still on their tyres that they started on, and I expect to see them come in probably the next lap. Medium tyres for Lucas Saraceni, and it's going to be, if I can get the right camera, hard tyres for Owen Boldero. So Owen Boldero will have to stop again, as that is his second set of hard tyres. As the first penalties come in for Connor Stewart-Woodard, 3 seconds for multiple warnings. In fact, I'm seeing one for Paul Garung, so I think I missed that one. But yes, as I say, hard tyres for Owen Boldero. He will need to stop again. It's medium tyres for Luca Seracini. I mean, in theory, he needs to stop again because it's quite a long way to set those tyres. But, I mean, stranger things have happened. But, of course, he's not Andrew Chenkovan. Andrew Chenkovan, as we know, is fantastic on making one-stops work. But I think even he won't make this one work today. But, yeah, Connor Stewart-Woodard is now behind Welly. So, yeah, that is the closest battle on track as it currently stands.
Yeah, stranger things have happened. All 5 seasons of it. And, well, there's not going to be any more. Anyway, the top 2 looking to fight with Chenkovan leading the way. And I think his tyres are going to be in the best condition of the 2 at the moment. With Petho just in behind, being on the set of the mediums that are now worn by about 8 laps. And that is not going to be ideal for the Williams, who's trying to chase this race leader. And, of course, you want to be at the optimal temperature, at the optimal position and ability to be able to fight with the Croat up ahead. But instead, he's just sitting in behind. And it's going to take a while before he's going to be ready to make that overtake. I think it might have to be into the next stint where he makes the move. But if he can hold on to this DRS, this will be absolutely perfect. That's a big if, because he's just inside of it right now. And he's only just clinging onto it for the time being. Lucas Seracini makes his way through on Brian Moore as Dan Riley demonstrates the potential and the pace that we know he's got with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.5, as he's 26 seconds off the back of the rest of this field. But yeah, he's not had the greatest of days. He's not had the luckiest of days. He's certainly one of many drivers hoping for another safety car.
Yeah, for sure. And it took me longer than I would like to admit to get that Stranger Things reference. But I literally was like, what is he talking about? And then, it clicked. So, never mind. But, as you say, yeah, there's another safety car would save a lot of people's races. None more so, I think, than the Aston Martins, as Brian Moore will also finally get off those tyres. And now everybody's had a stop. But yes, it's now that Dan Riley stopped again, it is only the Aston Martins who have done 2 sets of hards. So they will have their mediums to run later on. And a safety car at the right time, as actually Lucas Seracini is going past Alexandra Vickel. I mean, we expect that one. I don't think Alexandra Vickel probably put up much of a fight there. As you know, the pace difference is quite large between the 2 of them. But, they're the only... Yeah, a safety car at the right time for those 2 would absolutely save their race. If it comes out around lap sort of the mid-20s, late 20s, and they can bolt on those mediums and run to the end and then be on the back of the pack, they would be absolutely loving that. But yeah, there's a few drivers on here. We'd love to see a safety car. We'd love to see a safety car, but only if that's not, somebody crashing out. We'd love to see 12 cars finish. Dan Riley actually is another one who would absolutely love to see a safety car, as Aaron Petho then will get off those medium tyres. And one will assume that he will be put on hard tyres to the end. No. He's put on another set of medium tyres. Am I missing a trick there? You do race engineering. Am I missing a trick there? I would have expected hard tyres to the end at this point.
You know what I'm curious about, and I'm just going to try and have a look. So if it does pause a couple of times, I do apologise. I'm interested to see if it's actually going to be wet at the end of the race, because all of the drivers going onto the mediums is making me think, and Dan Riley also is making me think that it might be, at the end of the race, there might be those conditions that they will be hoping for. And Bert Welly spoke about pre-race. I can't find my engineering stuff. I'll be able to do that very, very soon. But yeah, it will be very interesting indeed if they are able to do that. And I might give up on this actually, because I genuinely cannot find it. Oh no, I found it. There we go. So I'll be able to get the telemetry up, and I'll be able to tell you specifically whether we will be getting, whether we will be getting the rainy conditions or not. As Ollie Matthews makes his way through on Alexander Vickel. Vickel on a set of the hard compound tyres at this point in time, as we tick over halfway through this race session and this Grand Prix. I'm just going to load up now. That's the wrong one. If I can open up the right one, and I'll be able to tell you very shortly. And apologies for all the time that we're spending in the pause menu, because I'm just trying to find an answer to a question. I think this would completely change the dynamic of this race, just because it would be so dramatic if it is the case, and it would change this race significantly. And in fact, there is going to be rain in 15 minutes time. It's going to be light rain to start with, but it's going to be thunderstorms by the end of the Grand Prix.
I am so glad you went and looked at that, because that is going to completely switch up this race. That is going to be fantastic. So no wonder they're all doing dodgy things. When I saw Aaron Petho go onto another set of medium tyres, I was completely baffled. I was like, that surely is not the right call. I'm not an expert, but even I could have told you that was a bad call. But that explains so much. Now then, has Andrea Chenkovan done the right thing by putting the hard tyres on and going to the very end on them as Petho goes past Lucas Seracini? So them two, actually, they're now on the same strategy, realistically. They are now fighting each other for, at the moment, second position, assuming Andrea Chenkovan's hard tyres go to the rain, which I'm going to expect them to. I think so in 15 minutes, as Ethan Shackleton would also pull into the pit lane to bolt on another set of medium tyres. So yeah, everybody's going for the mediums then. So actually, the hard strategy for the Astons could pay off here if they cycle ahead of everyone else. But I don't know if I've missed something, but Owen Baldero is miles behind all of a sudden. I'm sure he was just behind his teammate not long ago. Ethan Shackleton has come out ahead of him. So that strategy not really paying off for Owen Baldero. But yeah, Ollie Matthews, this could pay off for. I'm curious to see if Andrea Chenkovan, if he did the right thing in that stop by going onto the hard tyres, if he can stretch those to the rain period.
That I can't pull up on the telemetry. I can't pull up what's in all of the drivers' minds. But yeah, very, very interesting towards the end of the race. And you can tell my experience coming in there, me going, I've got no idea what they're doing, so it must be coming. Rain must be coming later on in the session. But yeah, we'll see. When that does indeed hit. It appears to be between 10 and 15 minutes time, and of course with these lap times, as Ethan Shackleton goes through on Alexander Vickel, with these lap times being a 1:11, 1:12, then that means it'll be taking 6 laps to get to another minute of racing. So if we do the maths, it should be coming with about 12 to 10 laps to go. So it's late on in the session, but it does appear to be that it's going to start, and it's going to start very hard. So that's why they've prepared themselves for it, as well, that'll be Owen Baldero through on Vickel as well, setting his sights on Ethan Shackleton just ahead.
Yeah, that's why you're here. That's why we've got you here. You know, it's you've been doing this a long time. It was, I must say, you know, and I'm sure anybody who watched last week would probably agree with me that it was fantastic to hear you and Max in commentary. Honestly, you two would just bounce off each other. It's great to listen to. It's great listening. But yeah, that's what you know what you're talking about. And while you've been talking, I've been keeping an eye on Connor Stewart Woodard as he was running on the back of Burt Welly. And I really wanted to say that Connor's running the podium positions just for a brief second, because it probably would have lasted with Aaron Petho on the back of him. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and now Aaron has now gone past him. So I'm not going to be able to say it, it would seem, unless something crazy happens later on. But the rain, it's just like when that rain period is going to happen now. That's going to really change the dynamic of this race, and really may save some people's races. As we say, the Aston Martins. But now we're just looking to see if Aaron Petho can hunt down the 16-second gap to Andrea Chenkovan, as I don't think we're really going to be expecting Andrea Chenkovan to come in.
No, I'm not sure whether we will or not. I think he might just be trying to hold out until the rain does indeed come. But of course, they'll be getting all sorts of different information. The information that I've got is right. The information that Mark gives in the game, not necessarily always the most accurate, because he might be saying the rain is coming in 10 to 15 minutes time. It might be coming in 15. It's now ticked along to just in 10 minutes time. And that's why the drivers watching the stream, hi, you're going to get an advantage here, because you can hear exactly what's actually going on. And so you can plan your strategy accordingly, and that will just encourage you in future to come and watch the streams, hang out with us. Even when you are racing, it provides a good opportunity to get information just like that, as well, these drivers are going to be, it doesn't feel as though they're all waiting for the rain to come, but it does feel as though there's a lull, as there's a second safety car out on the circuit. Appears to be for Brian Moore, maybe. Or is that for Dan Riley? Yes, it is. I didn't even see him being out of the session. I didn't even see that pop up. Dan Riley, his day goes from bad to worse, and he's out of this race.
Fortunately, I have absolutely no idea what happened. We didn't catch it, as it's a speeding in the pit lane for Owen Boldero. That is unfortunate. Quite surprised to see Owen actually come in. In fact, all these drivers who are in the pit lane, that usually when when the leader overtakes the safety car, they can all follow. They can all overtake the safety car, and they'll all pit 1 lap later. But they've all decided to pit straight away, which seems like an odd decision because everyone's under Delta. So strange choice from everyone who's currently pitted. But yeah, the rest of the field will all pit, or I'd imagine so. And that's soft tyres for Ethan Shackleton. So that is a hyper-aggressive strategy. He's really expecting the rain to hit any minute because they're not going to last more than sort of 4 laps. Okay, that's probably exaggeration, but probably 6-7 laps. Didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so I'm curious to see how this one's going to pay out. Andrew Chenkoven is going to peel in. That seems like the smart thing to do. One thing I will say, and I'm not gonna. Oh no, I wasn't gonna do any spark any conspiracy theories, but this massively helps out Dan Riley's teammate Paul Garung. Massively, until he got that drive-through penalty for speed under the safety car. So that was unfortunate. He obviously ran to the pit entry line at full speed, as you can do under the safety car. It's a little glitch in the game, but did it perhaps a little bit too early. And speed in the pit lane for Ollie Matthews and Lucas Aracini, and it's intermediate tyres for Aaron Petho. So he's doing a Kyle strategy from last season, where it didn't pay off for me in Belgium. Will it pay off for Aaron today?
You know what I'm glad about? I'm glad I did check in the end, because we would be incredibly confused by this strategy right now. And, well, we can be a little bit more assured in our opinions on this race right now and exactly what is going on, rather than just asking the question, what is going on? Because we know a little bit more. So we'll be seeing Aaron making that gamble, making that switch onto the intermediates. I couldn't quite tell last lap, and I still can't really tell when we ride on board with Brian whether that is going to be rain particles or whether that is just pure, just the tyres looking a bit funny. I think it is just the tyres looking a bit funny because it doesn't appear as though there's any rain on the circuit. Just having a look at some of the onboards to see if anyone's got any different information, but it doesn't look as though they do. In 5 minutes' time, within the next 5 minutes, it's going to be up to 31% chance of rain. In 10 minutes, it'll be up to 72. So it's basically guaranteed rain in that time. And, well, we will see what they can do. It's very exciting in this race, the fact that we've got this scenario and no one really quite knows what's going to happen.
So I am on Connor Stewart Woodard's stream and I'm watching it very intently to see the first raindrops. None yet, and in fact the sky does not look like it's quite dark enough. That is Ollie Matthews then, and yeah, Ollie Matthews and Paul Garung. Yes, we'll get both serving their drive-through penalties straight away. No, you can't serve them under safety car, can you? I'll have to check if they've served them. I thought you couldn't serve them under safety car, but I could be wrong there. Aaron Boldero also on the intermediate tyres. Yeah, their tyres have been changed. They cannot serve those penalties. I don't know if they knew that, so we'll have to wait and see. Was it drive-through penalties? No, so it was 10 seconds, was it? Sorry, it was 10 seconds for Ollie Matthews. It was a drive-through for Paul Garung. So I'm confusing myself. Do apologise if I'm confusing you on stream. But yeah, the 10 seconds can be served, and it has been served for Ollie Matthews. Now he's at the back of the field with his teammate who's on the intermediate tyres, who's obviously nursing them tyres around, and I'm not surprised because you want to make those last as long as possible. Also, try and extend the safety car as long as possible because the safety car will probably stay out an extra lap if you've not kind of hit the back of the field. But a lot of penalties to be served. 10 seconds for Lucas Orosini, 10 seconds for Paul Garung, which is unfortunate for them, which they'll have to serve when they go onto the intermediate tyres, of course, so that will ruin their chances. And actually, that safety car benefiting Paul Garung isn't quite the case anymore. But currently, I'm just curious at the top. We've got a hard runner, an inter runner, and a medium runner. We've also got a soft runner in P6. I think that might not have been the right call from Ethan Shackleton, but I've been wrong in the past.
So, there are, on my screen, on my end, there are 7 tiles of racing remaining. There is, of course, 13 laps. There'll be 12 when we cross the line. So we can deduce from that it's about every 2 laps that these tiles update. And the next tile up is going to be where the rain begins. So it is not far away now for these drivers, and in fact we're seeing Alexander Vickel in the pit lane. Is this going to be that fated switch onto intermediate tyres, or is it a switch onto already used tyres? It is the intermediates. I think the engineers are giving the information. It is right about time to box and to change right now, whilst they've still got the opportunity. I think a lot of them have missed out. I think the safety car is going to come in on this lap, and I think a lot of them have really missed the mark.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him. It's one of those situations where it's going to be so easy to get it wrong. It's I've done it. We've seen other drivers do it here. It's a hard call to make. You put them on and it doesn't rain, then you fall to the very back. You put them on and it does rain, you look like an absolute hero. But the margin is so fine. It's a risk at the end of the day, and it's just. Yeah, I did see. I'm still on board on Connor's stream, and I did see him set Inters ready. He's ready to go, but of course, as you say, probably missed the mark now because the safety car will likely be in this lap. So, yeah, Alexander Vickel doing it there, making that call. There we are. So he's going to be in this lap. So Alexander Vickel making that call there may well have been an absolute stonker of a strategy. That's a bad word to describe a strategy, but that really could work out for him if it rains as soon as your tiles say they will in the next lap potentially. But obviously the intensity obviously makes a difference. We don't know how bad it's going to get and how quickly it's going to get bad, so we'll have to wait and see as Andrew Chenkovan is getting ready to lead us back to green.
If we're trusting my telemetry, it's going to be very, very bad very, very soon. And Andrew Chenkovan's going to go early to the green flag racing. He's going to get us back underway, and it's going to be Peto just in behind. Going to be alongside. It's going to be 3 wide as Lucas Aracini makes it into the first corner. Both of the second and third back out, but it will be Chenkovan to make it into the first corner on the exit. In first place, second and third will be alongside each other, and in the end Lucas Aracini will make his way through with the grip at the moment. Connor Stewart-Woodard is currently sitting on the podium in the Almost Pro Championship. He's made his way through on the intermediate runner of Petho as well. Burtwell gone through as well. Is it too early for Petho to have made that gamble onto the Inters? It looks as though it is, because Owen Boldero and Alexander Vickel are having the same problems. Ollie Matthews through on Brian Moore, and it'll be Paul Garung on the back of Aaron Petho, hoping to make the move, and Ollie Matthews, in fact, making his way through on Garung. A swap further up between Shackleton and Connor Stewart-Woodard. That means Connor Stewart-Woodard drops to 5th. It might have been a kick of oversteer on the exit, because there's a big gap now between the drivers, and Brian Moore is the latest one to get through on Paul Garung. So very, very interesting indeed, that safety car restart. Rain is falling here at Zandvoort.
Rain is falling indeed. I was waiting to say, I could see it on the cameras and I was waiting to call it. But as you say, Connor Stewart was on the podium. I was ready to celebrate. And then as I was on board with him for the replay cameras, he completely went off the track and let a couple of cars pass. So unfortunate, as it's another 10-second penalty for Paul Garung. That is 2 in 2 pit stops. So his race is also falling apart. So the race of the Mercedes drivers is completely falling apart here. What are they doing? What is going on? That is absolutely unfortunate, as there's completely no points for them at all as it currently stands. Connor Stewart, I actually just noticed, is missing an end plate, so he will have to replace that in the pit lane. And Brian Moore, as you say, currently still faster than Aaron Petho here. But I'm expecting to see that shift happen very, very shortly. And one thing I did actually just notice, I don't know if that's a mistake, but Paul Garung has gone on to... Oh, I know what he's done. Because he did the second penalty. He's put on old medium tyres so he can run another lap, run into the pit lane, put some fresh Inters on, and remove the second penalty. But when are the rest of the drivers going to start putting those intermediate tyres on? I'm expecting some this lap. And if they don't, which actually the current leaders haven't, then some will do it next lap.
Yeah, Burtwell into the box, and he's got a 10-second time penalty all of his own. So this is simultaneously the most interesting strategy race that we've had for a very long time. It's the most interesting strategy race I certainly remember, at least in the Almost Pro Championship, but also it's a race of attrition as well. They've got to keep themselves outside of penalty contention, which is not what Burt Welly's done, and he will be taking that 10-second time penalty as Paul Garung back into the pit lane. He's going to go once again. Hopefully he'll make the switch onto a proper set of tyres this time. Another set of intermediates it will be, hopefully for himself, as he's on a set of the mediums right now, and well, hopefully he'll make the switch. 28 to 36, so not long left, and I think it might be a consideration for some of the drivers. I know it's going to get really wet out there, but I think some of them are going to give it a go and try and stick it out to the end of the race on the tyres they're on now.
I'm expecting to see that from Andrew Chenkovan. I think if he's not listening to the stream and doesn't know how bad it's going to get, then he may well do. It's something we've seen him do before, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But it would be crazy, I think, from what we know, and I actually think he'll put in now. And if he doesn't, then this is a great undercut possibility for Lucas Seracini, and he's going again. So I think Lucas Seracini should do it now. He should pull the trigger and go in, and he is going to do it. So maybe he's listening to the stream, and he's gone really slow into the pit lane there. So actually, I mean, that undercut attempt was completely ruined that. So I know we've had some speed in the pit lane, as Connor also does it. So they're all struggling at this pit entry here. No wonder they're all complaining about it, as there's a 10-second penalty for him to serve. So actually, there won't be an undercut, as that is the penalty being served. One thing I will say, actually, I've just noticed this, is Aaron Petho is closing that gap down to the Ferraris. So actually, he will probably resume the lead. And actually, Owen Baldero will take second place when they stop, if they stop. But then their tyres are going to be a lot older. Obviously, the Inters don't wear as much as quickly as the dry tyres do, so they may well actually be able to have a big enough gap to go to the end and not be under pressure. But they'll be a little bit nervous that the Ferraris will try and hunt them down very, very quickly. And one thing we'll say is Ethan Shackleton will not take those softs to the end. I really don't see it happening. So he will 100% box. Is that him boxing now? No, it's not. That's just him being natural. You know, he's had a mistake, I think. He's going backwards. He's falling backwards. So he's clearly, those softs have had enough. And I'm expecting to see him pull into the pit lane at the end of the lap. And he's got a big enough gap that he can now do a double stack with Andrew Chenkovan, who has decided to finally pull in as well. And that would be everybody on the intermediate tyres. If we see Brian Moore going as well, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we certainly will. In comes Andrew Chenkovan. He is going to drop positions, and this will be a late-on charge from our championship contender here to see if he's going to be able to make his way up to the top of the field. Once again, of course, he has controlled the pace this race. He's only had pressure from the man sitting in first place now. He's only had pressure from Aaron Petho, and now Petho has control. Brian Moore also into the box, and he's got intermediate tyres on. Ethan Shackleton also doing the same thing. So the Ferraris, they've been pacey, but the strategy has cost them so much here today. Owen Baldero currently sits 1.1 off of the back of Aaron Petho in that first place, and in third, Andrea Chenkovan, 7 seconds off. He is gaining, but I don't know if it's by enough. Alexander Uvikal, he took a great gamble onto the strategy, which put him maybe higher than his pace might have deserved today. And so I think it's just going to be a case of trying to hold on to positions and defending like a lion at the end of this race for Alexander Uvikal. He's got 3.5 the gap to Ollie Matthews, who's on a new set of intermediate tyres. He's actually the driver with the oldest tyres in that group of drivers behind the top two, and well, the top two will head on to the next lap of racing. It will be Aaron Petho to lead us to it, and Owen Baldero just under a second behind.
I was going to say that Andrew Chenkovan will need at least a second a lap to make a charge for the win here, but that's exactly what he's doing. So this is going to go right down to lap 36, I'm sure. And I tell you what, Owen Baldero will be looking at that delta and absolutely crapping himself, because he is going to see a fast charging Andrea Chenkovan coming at him very, very quickly, whilst he's also trying to get past for the lead. Now, one of 3 things I think is going to happen here without me, commentators cursing anyone, so I won't say, I won't back any of them, but we're going to see either another win for Andrew Chenkovan, and he's currently got the pace to do it. We're going to see a win for Owen Baldero, which will be very popular with us in the comms box, or we're going to see a debut win for Aaron Petho. Either one of those things, is going to be an amazing feat. When you look at the delta, it's 7 seconds when Andrew Chenkovan came out of the pit lane. He is absolutely rapid right now. So I can't call it right now, and I'm not even going to put a prediction in, but this is going to get spicy on lap 35 or 36, I am sure, as Ollie Matthews goes past Alexander Vickel. So great show from Alexander Vickel right now. So he'll be hoping to try and also get a great result here, as Lucas Ericini will be going past Ethan Shackleton. No, he's not. Ethan Shackleton holding on the 1 lap fresher tyre, so not crazy fresh. But it looks like those two will be battling towards the end. And I tell you what, this will be fantastic for Connor if, while he looks behind, sees them two fighting, if he can run away, be very, very pleased about that. But very pleased with a 6th position. But yeah, I'd love to see some good points for Alexander Vickel here. He has kept it going all season. You know, he's not had the pace of some of the top drivers, but he has kept it going. And currently, he is running extremely close to Ollie Matthews.
Certainly is. He is running 1.3 seconds off the back of the man in 5th place at the moment. So currently he'll be taking 8 points home to the Haas team, and it'll be sorely needed considering his teammate didn't show up today. I think those who didn't show up today will be very disappointed. They missed out on an absolute classic of racing, as we've only got 5 laps left to go in it, and it is really, really coming down on the drivers. 72% rain, and Owen Boldero, who made up 0.2 of a second on the previous tour. In fact, he made up 0.4 of a second on the previous tour. He's been caught up by 0.2 of a second by both Chenkovan and Petho. So he is the slowest of these 3 drivers at the moment, and he's going to hope to hold on to it. 1.7, the gap between himself and Chenkovan. Chenkovan at the moment exceeding expectations, and is going to be a force in the rearview mirror of those at the very top of the field very, very shortly. I think they've got 1 more lap of Chenkovan free running before the Croat is going to catch up and make his way into contention with those drivers right at the very top of the field. This is going to be very, very intense, and I think at the end of this race it's all going to come down to how well can Boldero defend in the early stages against Chenkovan. If he can defend well enough, I still think he's going to lose the position, and then that will run. Chenkovan will run out of time, and Petho will take a debut victory. If he's not able to hold on, then I think he's just going to have the momentum enough to make his way through on our race leader, and we'll have Andrea Chenkovan, after all of this, after all of the challenging that we've had, taking the victory once again. But we have not seen the defensive capabilities of Petho just yet. His driving ability is going to be very challenged into the last 4 laps.
I can't believe what we're watching him, Andrew Chenkovan. We know he's fast. You know, he's a 3-time champion for a reason. But this is some other level of pace to be this much quicker. I think we're talking like 1.5 seconds a lap almost. Like like since the safety car restart. Like since his box onto intermediate tyres. It's unbelievable, and I genuinely. I can't explain it. I'm sure he can't explain it. I'm sure the other drivers can't explain it when they come into the comms box later for an interview. Owen Boldero, I'm sure, is going to be there and go, I have no idea how he does it. He's on controller. How does he do it? I'm expecting that to be an actual direct quote from Owen Boldero, as they are now going side by side through turn 1 and turn 2. And that is Andrea Chenkovan through. So a good fight from Owen Boldero, but not quite enough. And that's actually only left Andrea Chenkovan 6th attempt behind Petho. So it's another level. This guy is just he's driving on another level. It's literally Andrea Chenkovan and then everyone else. It's crazy to watch, but it's so fun to watch. You know, watching how fast he is, and I'd even say he's probably got faster as the seasons have gone on. If I'm honest, I don't know if he can get much faster than this, but here he is. So I expect to see him pass very, very shortly for the lead, and with much older tyres on the car of Aaron Petho, I can't see him really being able to put up much of a fight. With only 3 laps to go, he almost did it. But I think the battle now is going to be for 2nd position.
Rain is the great equaliser though, so we never quite know what's going to happen. Maybe we could be incredibly wrong, and the intermediate tyres are going to be pretty much equal at this point in the stint. We know that the tyre wear isn't going to be so much, but look at that exit that Andrea Cenkovan's got. The defence is going to be to the inside line from Petho, but Andrea Cenkovan will take it around the long way, and he will make it ahead even before the corner. Big lunge I expected from the Hungarian. Not so big lunge actually delivered, so it looks as though it's just going to be 1, then 1, then 1. The pace differences are just extending out, and Andrea Chenkovan on the penultimate lap of the race has gone back into the lead. Somehow going incredibly long on those tyres, on the dry tyres before making the switch. has worked out for him, and he's going to be in the lead a bit, 1.1 ahead. So he can now stretch his legs and do, well, not necessarily a victory tour, but he will be cool and calm towards the end of the race, knowing that he is the quickest of the lot.
Yeah, obviously, he's got a lot of pace. There is a strategy thing here to note. I'm sure people will be in the chat going, "Well, actually, he's on fresher tires. Of course, he's going to be faster." Yes, but the amount faster he was, that's down to his pace as well. And it could have been a case of them actually battling all the way to the end if they were on the exact same strategy, because they could have swapped positions if they were on the exact same tires. Andrew Chenkovan, we've seen him before. Not massively aggressive, so sometimes when he's behind a car who's got a similar pace to him, actually, he ends up staying there for a few laps. So if they were on the same strategy and Aaron Petho was ahead of him, it is very possible that Aaron could have kept him behind. But as it currently stands, on the strategy he's on, he was able to breeze past and now use his superior pace to run away. Owen Boldero now dropping to almost 2 seconds on Aaron Petho as well. But if it ends this way, as we are on the final lap, he'll be happy with a third consecutive podium. I believe that's correct. So after a bit of a struggle of a start, he'll be very happy with that. His teammate down in 5th position, and Andrew Chenkovan's teammate just going past Alexander Vickel. So Alexander Vickel will potentially fall down to 8th position here, maybe, if Lucas Orsini has anything to say about it, but I'm sure he'll be happy enough with the result. Connor Stewart-Woodard, I didn't get a chance to mention it earlier, actually. He did have another mistake. So from the highs of the podium to the lows of 0 points for Connor Stewart-Woodard, unfortunately. But, hopefully he will come back in future races. But I don't know if it's the weather or just the track. But, yeah, he was looking good. And unfortunately, he no longer is as Lucas Orsini. And as I said, past the Haas of Alexander Vickel. And Alexander Vickel now has 9 seconds on Brian Moore, and I feel like that's a gap even the likes of Brian Moore and his fresher tyres aren't going to be able to close down, as Andrew Chenkovan will now go around the final proper corner to win the race, potentially. There's still time, but here he goes towards the line.
Yeah, he's up to the line. He's going to finish off this lap. A very, very good race indeed. A great charge through the field in changeable conditions. The Ferrari is on top once again. A new challenger in second place, though. He nearly took it away. 1 lap less than he'd have had it, I think. But he's not going to get it to the line. Third place for Owen Boldero, as he's just going to come through and finish ahead of Burt Welly in that 4th place. In fact, that's going to be Ollie Matthews, who's just about going to finish ahead of Burt Welly. It was Owen Boldero who finished just ahead on track. It was Ollie Matthews who finished just ahead after the penalties are applied. 6th place will go to Ethan Shackleton, so another decent haul of points for the Ferraris, and 7th for Lucas Orsini. He'll be disappointed, I think, in the end by that one. Alexander Vickel in 8th, and then it will be Brian Moore in 9th. A good haul of points for the Haas, and another point for the Kick Sauber. In fact, another 2 points for the Kick Sauber. Paul Garan will come home in what he will feel is a disappointing 10th place, and an even more disappointing 11th for Connor Stewart-Woodard, who once sat on the podium. And I'd imagine, I've not looked, but I'd imagine he's sat in pretty much every single position in this order here today. He'll be the final finisher. Dan Riley, the only DNF, and that will be Andrew Chenkovan taking another victory home. And, a new challenger in second place, though. So after the break week next week, we can expect that it's not quite going to be so easy for the Croat.
Yeah, Connor's wing still has that missing end plate, so I've no idea if he changed it or if he did and then broke it again. But that could be why he struggled so much, if he just decided to not change the wing. So that might have been a mistake on his part, as he now does come across the line to round off the field. Burt Welly, despite his penalty, did almost get past Owen Boldero at the line. So one more lap and he'd have been passed. So no idea what happened to Owen Boldero at the end there. But Burt Welly almost challenged him, but the penalty would have put him behind anyway. But I'm sure he'd have loved to have called it on track.
I'm sure they would have indeed. It was a very good race victory from this driver. It was a very good podium indeed from all of them. In fact, a very, very good race that they can all be pretty happy with their performances in. Driver of the day, Burt Welly, according to the game. Dan Riley with the fastest lap, of course, and most overtakes Owen Boldero, but it was the most impactful overtakes for Andrew Chenkovan, who took that victory ahead of Aaron Petho in that second place. The first finished first, second finished second, but we know that wasn't the full story. It's Owen Boldero in third. He got a decent haul of points alongside his teammate, and in fact, I believe they are going to pick up almost as many as the Ferraris, but the Ferraris still extend the gap by 6. Burt Welly in 5th, Ethan Shackleton in 6th, and Lucas Aracini. Good pace, disappointing to finish in 7th, and then Alexander Vickel will be over the moon to finish in 8th. 9th for Brian Moore, and rounding out the points will be Paul Garung. Rounding out the finishers will be Connor Stewart-Woodard, and rounding out the classified drivers will be Dan Riley in 12th and final position after a disappointing race for himself, where he found himself out of it. So you can't really get more disappointing than that. But he'll hope to come back, because the pace he showed today wasn't actually too bad.
Oh no, there was a lot of good driving out there. I think Alexander Vickel, for one, was up there. He showed quite a good pace for probably the first time this season. Yeah, as you say, Dan Riley. Yeah, it was really good pace. The qualifying was great. You'd be very, very upset about that crash, I imagine. Aaron Boldero, good pace for him there, of course. He's up there on the podium, so I'm looking forward to speaking to him at some point. In fact, I can see him in the waiting room, so we will find out more about that, I'm sure. And Aaron Petho, absolutely, first race here with us, and absolutely, nailed the pace, although potentially on the wrong strategy, but we'll find out more, I'm sure, from him, hopefully, if he joins us for a debut interview.
Yeah, we'll see. Whether he does, of course, the interviews are open to all of the drivers. And speaking of all of the drivers and the interviews, let's get onto them right now. And the first one that we are going to be dragging in, we should bring in, I believe, Burt Welly, who can be the first one into the box. Because why not? Just randomly pick today. Normally I do it in order. Haven't today. But talk me through that race.
Well, at the beginning, my wheel wasn't working, so like for the first 20 seconds, I was on AI. But then struggled, but then I saw with the safety cars, it really helped me. And when it started raining, I was really fucking happy. But got a 10 seconds for getting the speed limiter. But yeah.
Yeah, unfortunate. And well, it seemed to be that the pit limiter was catching a lot of drivers out today. Was there any particular reason? Was it slippery down in the pit lane, or was it literally just a case of mistakes from a number of the drivers?
Yeah, I mean, people are used to 40, 50s, but 37 caught people off guard 100%. I forgot to just brake a bit earlier and was only able to get to 42, so I got that 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely fair enough indeed. And well, we're going to have a week off of racing now. We'll be back on April the 7th. What are you going to do with your Tuesday evening?
I mean, I'm not too sure. Might go out with some friends during the week, but I'll be practicing for 2 weeks' time for the next race, which will be interesting. And I'm looking forward to be fighting against the Astons for that P2 in the constructors.
Yeah, fair enough indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Have you got anything, Carl, before we let Bert go?
Yeah, well, it's nice to obviously Bert gets a chance to go out with some friends. We want to make sure our drivers also have a life outside, of course. But so obviously you started that in the 10th position, so you actually the game gave you driver of the day, because I think you made up the most positions up to 5th position. Who would you say was the hardest person to get through today? Because there was a lot of fast drivers out there today. Everyone had some really good pace, despite everybody moaning about how bad the track is. So who would you say was the hardest to get past?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't have an issue of passing people. I just had way too many mistakes and just lost so many positions. But I would say keeping Ollie at the end behind for those 10 seconds was probably the hardest at the end, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you did a good job, and it was, you were on hassling the Aston Martins to the very, very line there, and it was quite fun to watch. But great job. Yeah, it was fantastic to watch you drive today. We look forward to seeing you for race 8 in 2 weeks' time.
All right, see you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Certainly will be. Thank you very much, Bert, for joining us. And well, we'll move on from Bert to Brian Moore, who, of course, picked up ninth place, so another couple of points heading home. Not too bad performance then. Brian, how was it from your end?
Yeah, not too bad of a performance. It was more of a recovery drive from me after the disconnection early on. The first safety car definitely helped. Second safety car possibly could have gone intermediate, like a few people were doing, but didn't want to take the risk. After the race, me and Connor both sort of mentioned that one more lap on Inters, I would have had radio, Alexander Vickel. So we both sort of mentioned, because Connor was doing better in the race, I let him take the pit stop first. So perhaps could have got P8 if I took the first pit stop, but Connor was doing better throughout the race, so I preferred to give him the first pit stop onto the Inters to give him a better chance, but yeah, it was more of a recovery drive and just trying to survive today, which P9 in the end, not too bad. Didn't get what I wanted, but it's a result nonetheless.
Yeah, certainly is. And, well, it was very unpredictable rain conditions today, of course. It seemed to come at a very weird time. What was Mark saying to you mid-race? Because, of course, it looked like some drivers thought it was coming a lot earlier than it did. Some drivers thought it was coming a lot later.
Even when I pitted for intermediate, I was still getting told it was too dry for them. And up until the second to last lap was the only time I actually got told it was dry enough for either intermediates or wet tires. So, very, very. I mean, it's as usual. You don't really listen to what the engineer says about tires because you just have to go with what you feel is right in the race.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm hoping you mean wet enough, not dry enough. But yes, indeed. Kevin, have you got anything before we go?
Yeah, I mean, what is it that you need to do to get ahead of the Hasses? Because you're 1 point behind in the championship, and of course you had two drivers in today. One of their drivers didn't turn up. This should have been a great one for you. What else do you need to do? I mean, I guess one question I could ask, as Connor never turns up to his interviews, and obviously I know you speak to him live during the race. Like, what happened? Because he was racing so well. I know I should be asking you about his race, but as a team, like. There was big potential here today. What more do you two need to do to take it to the Hasses?
I know from Connor's perspective, he sort of mentioned after the race, if that rain never came, he felt like it could have been a very good race for him. So I think weather kind of annoyingly screwed him over today. It could have been a good race, but I don't know. I feel like my pace is improving this season, but I think Matthew Verhaas definitely very much helps him out when he doesn't show. We close the gap, but then when he does show, because he's always getting solid midfield performances, they're constantly just edging out the gap, and then we have to try and draw it back in again. But hopefully going into Monza, we can change the season around in the second half of the season, 2 weeks' time, and start a charge against Haas and try to beat them by the end of the season.
I love how it's suddenly a given now that Matt Gatches might not turn up to a race. But fantastic result. Obviously, you got a couple of points there ahead of Paul Garung, so I'm sure that's great. You're still in touch and distance of the Hasses, and in fact, I think this now puts you on the same points as McLaren. I want to say, who obviously have no drivers anymore, so. It would have been a bit embarrassing to finish behind them. So it's a good job. But week break now. Obviously, we'll see you back for race 8 in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm looking forward to seeing some better results from the Kickstarbers.
Thank you.
Well, that was Brian Moore, who ended up in 9th place. We're going to go a little bit further up the order. And I'm going to drag both of them in, because I think this is going to be an interesting one. So I'm going to drag both of the Aston Martin drivers. Yeah, we're going to switch it up. Of course we are. We're going to drag both of the Aston Martin drivers in. And, well, of course, both of them like taking their time with their answers. So we could be here a while. But we'll start with Ollie and then we'll go to Owen. Talk me through your race.
Probably one of the most chaotic races I've had in a very long time. Having crashed in quali as per usual now. I was kind of on the back foot and just wanted to cruise, and pace was not really there the entire time. But not boxing under the first safety car was probably my best decision that race, because I was able to keep up with the leaders despite having kind of 20% more worn tyres, and I bit of a poor speeding in the pit lane, kind of a spin at one point, and to recover it to P4 by, I think it was 4/10 to Bert in the end. I couldn't really be happier. I don't think there was any more in that.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It seemed like there was a lot of misfortune from your end. And I just want to go back and touch on it for a second in a minute. Of course, we saw most of the action on the circuit, but we didn't see exactly what happened in qualifying.
So the Williams was starting a lap behind. Like, I overtook on my lap, and then they were about to start their lap. And during turn 2, I was like, they're getting quite close, so I'm going to kind of veer onto the gravel, let them by. I just lock the entire car and head straight for a wall. I don't think it should have knocked my wheel off, but it did, and there's nothing I can. I don't think I was really going to improve anyway. That was a PB lap for me, so yeah.
Fair enough. Well, it is what it is sometimes, and you did well to recover yourself to 4th place. Carl, have you got anything for Ollie?
Well, obviously, yeah. I'll ask Owen the same question when I get around to him. But you were both the only drivers who started on hards to go on to another set of hards. So, what decision? What was the thought process that made you go on to that? Obviously, it turned out to be quite a good idea in the end. But what happened at the time that made you think that actually, going on to a second set of hards is going to be the right decision here?
Well, we saw the forecast and we were thinking under green flag running, which APC normally is, we can do 2 sets of hards, then the rain comes and we can go straight onto a set of inters. We didn't plan for the safety cars, so they kind of fiddled with our strat a little bit, but we made it work, I think.
Yeah, obviously it turned out to be quite well in the end, but obviously, I think I was surprised that nobody else obviously thought of it. But yeah, thanks for your answers. Obviously, stick around for Owen. I'm sure we'll have some more questions for the both of you once we hear from Owen.
Exactly, that's why I dragged both of you in. So, Owen, talk me through your race.
A roller coaster of emotions. Probably my worst performance since I came back to APC in terms of my driving. So I don't know if you read my form, but I said on it how much I hate this track, and I just didn't feel comfortable, and that translated to the race and quali. So we got a little bit lucky with the 2 grid penalties, which started us a little bit further up. We were just able in the first stint to just sort of maintain where we were. And then that safety car came out. As soon as we went racing again, all the grip I had just disappeared. No idea where it went. And I felt horrendous for pretty much the rest of the race. And then me and Dan Riley had a collision. That was probably my fault, if I'm being completely honest. And then I got the 10-second in the pit lane. And I was like, oh, this race is so over. And then when I served the 10 seconds, I went, you know what? I'm going to go for inters. What have I got to lose? I'm last. I may as well try something. So I went on to the inters, and then the rain hit as we went racing. I was like, come on, rain harder, rain harder, rain harder. And then the people started pitting, and I was like, oh my God, how have I just recovered my worst race in APC? And I ended up finishing 3rd. I maybe could have got the Williams ahead of me, but I didn't want to risk getting a puncture on the Inter, so I just thought I'll just manage. Even if I finish 3rd here, it's a really good result from where I was, and that's what I was able to get. So I went from absolute depression about halfway through the race to very, very happy in a matter of laps.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed to be a roller coaster, as you say, indeed. Carl, have you got anything for Owen individually before we ask them a couple of questions as a pairing?
Yes, obviously, I'm assuming that given that you're the only 2 drivers who did hard, that you were kind of going to mimic each other's strategy. You obviously made a decision to do something different. Did you did you think at the time actually this might not be a good idea? You know, did Ollie try and talk you out of it as well? Maybe, you know, because that was the only time you deviated from the same strategy.
Ollie was actually the one that suggested it first. So he was toying with it. And I went, you know what, I'm going to do it because I had nothing to lose. I was last after Dan Riley crashed. So I thought, I'm out of the points. What have I got to lose? So I went for it. Ollie obviously went for softs and then mediums when he got the 10-second. But it was actually him that suggested it. And I'm very glad he did because in the end, it actually ended up working out better for us as a team.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the only individual question I have.
And just on both of you as a whole, of course, this is about more about the team's championship than anything else. But I mean, Ferrari at the moment standing on top. You're not too far behind. Is it still on?
Do you want to go first, Ollie, or do you want me to go?
I think we're going to need a couple of Shenki bottles in order to reel it back in, but I'm happy with where we're at currently. I don't know what the gap is after today's race, but it was 59 going into today. But I think our best bet is to try and secure P2 and
It's 65, by the way. Yeah.
60. Oh, so they gain on us as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tall order.
Owen, you more positive at all?
I mean, I don't think it's on. Sadly, I just don't think we've got half the season left. But unless we, as Ollie said, have some Chengi bottles, or Ethan goes back to having some issues in the races, I don't think we're going to outscore Ferrari regularly enough to get into the fight. But I think if Alexis Mason hadn't been put in Ferrari that race at Austria, we might be having a slightly different conversation.
Well, that's
I
not a
agree with
conversation
that.
for me. That's a conversation for Kyle. We're going to be now. We'll let both of you go. So thank you very much.
Oh,
for
I have a
joining
spicy
us
question
today.
before they go.
Go on.
Actually, quickly. So you are 10 points between the two of you. Which one of you is going to finish ahead?
Probably be Ollie, to be honest with you. I'm probably not quick enough on a regular basis to beat him.
Do you concur, Ollie?
I don't want to sound really obnoxious. I think we're going to be like neck and neck the entire rest of the season as we have been so far, and 10 points is like a first and a third swing. So I think anything could happen, but I do want to back myself.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. I mean, I'm looking forward to finding out. And actually, Ollie, you'll have to stop crashing in qualifying if you want to finish ahead of Owen Baldero. But we'll see towards the end of the season. But thanks very much, guys. Thanks for both joining at the same time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you both at the same time. And
Thank you very
we'll
much.
catch you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, we certainly
Yes.
will. Boring answer from Owen, a more exciting answer from Ollie. Now we're going to go to the last driver in the interview room. He's waited a while, but we're going to get the opportunity to speak to Luca Saraceni. Now, Luca, of course, didn't quite go your way, but just talk me through it.
That was like horrible. The race was so bad. Like my pace was really good on the dries, and then I pit under the second safety car. Sorry, the first one. Got a 10-second pen because I thought the speed limit thingy was 50 and it was 37. And then I just didn't realize I could have just pit on softs, wait for the rain, and serve my penalty. So I was just there on mediums, really dead mediums, with a 10-second penalty. And then I served it when I pit for the inters, and I just like no pace at all. I was somehow keeping with Ethan, but I just fell away like so quickly.
Yeah, it did seem as though it was a bit odd, the pace drop, but that does. It's just a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, of course, we can take a look now as we are halfway through the season at the first half of the season. And what would be your summation of it, of course, because it's been a bit up and down, but I would say it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot better than the first half of last season. I think I was second last this time last year, and now I'm fourth or fifth, I think. So a lot better. Like,
Yeah, it certainly is a lot better indeed, and well, I've mentioned it a few times. Probably the most improved driver in the Almost Pro Championship, especially from that perspective. Probably statistically as well. That's all from me. Carl, have you got anything for Luca?
I believe it was you that I was on board with when I saw you go into the pit lane extremely slowly. So
yeah,
was it
yeah,
just a case of you had a bad run into pit lane, you just thought, you know what, I'm going to play extra safe the second time around to not get another penalty?
yeah. It was exactly that. I completely thought it was 50, so I was going in about like 45, like 46, just kind of trundling along. And then as I came across the line, I saw at the top left like someone got a pen, and I thought it was the Williams. So I started celebrating to myself and celebrating to Burr, and then I realized it was myself, and I just went quiet like the whole race. It was horrible.
I mean, that would have been funny to watch. A shame we didn't have an on-board camera with
Oh.
you when we were live. That would have been hilarious to watch. But yeah, I think I agree with Joseph there, where he says, the most improved. You've done a fantastic first half of the season, and I'm hoping you're going to do a lot more in the second half of the season and try and take it to the Aston boys. And I tell you what, the teams championship is not out of the question. Second teams championship is not out of the question, and mathematically, with the win of the championship is not out of the question. I believe in the drivers also. So, there's all to play for the second half of the season. But do you think you and Bert have got what it takes? Obviously, running fourth and fifth in the championship at the moment, and third in the teams.
Maybe. I am missing the next 2 races. I think I'm going on holiday over Easter, so I don't know if like Alexis or anyone will be able to like cover for me. But hopefully, whoever does cover me can get some points towards the championship. Yeah.
Yeah, well, 3 reserves, 2 have driven before, 1 that hasn't. So we will wait and see if any of them will. But great race. I mean, it was not the best result for you this time out, given what you've shown recently. But good results, good points nonetheless. So thanks for taking the time to come speak to us, and we'll speak to you again in 2 weeks' time.
Perfect. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. That was Luca Seracini, our final interview of the day, I believe, unless I've forgotten anybody, which I'm sure you'll tell me now if I have, so I'm going to assume that I haven't. But yeah, very, very good race indeed. Probably the best strategic race I've seen, at least on this game cycle, if not the last as well. But have you got any final thoughts before we round this one off?
Oh, that was one of the best ones, I think, of the first half of the season. That was fantastic. We didn't know who was going to be doing what and who was going to come off on top, and it was Andrew Chenkovan. Once again, I think we at one point thought, you know what, he's not going to get the win this time out, but he obviously heard that and took that personally. But some of those results were more surprising than Tom Scott's return to YouTube. So, I very much enjoyed watching that one. We've got, obviously, a season break now to go into, and when we'll come back for the second half of the season, that will be 7th of April. We'll be there at the Temple of Speed in Monza. We've got Azerbaijan on the 14th. We've got the Texas Sprint on the 21st. Brazil will be on the 28th, Vegas on the 5th of May, Qatar on the 12th of May, and we'll round out the season once again at Abu Dhabi on the 19th of May. And I'm looking forward to joining you in the comms box once again in 2 weeks' time.
Certainly will be very, very good to see indeed. Well, thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in today. Enjoy your week off and come back swinging, especially if you're one of the drivers. But until next time, it is goodbye.
Underway. Stamps' authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this.